What's up guys, welcome back to another photo review video. Today I'm going to take some of these pictures that you've so kindly sent via my email, wollertzphotography@gmail.com, and I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks on how to improve or what I think about those images for stock photography. But mainly where and what areas we can improve. So what happens when I critique a photo is I'm going to find little things here and there that are going to maybe make you look at your image in a different way. Even if your photo is perfect, I'm going to try to find something, because that's the whole point of sending me pictures. On the last few videos, I've been losing subscribers, and I think it's because I haven't made this disclaimer. I'm not out here just to criticize and tell you your picture's not good. I'm here to help you improve. So please keep that in mind. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just trying to help you look at your images in a different light or a different way and help you generate more money from your pictures. So let's get started here real quick. So the first photo I have here is from it's a scan. It's a scanned image. So you see a little bit of grain. You see the sky. It's an old building, a barn or a house, an old house. Because it's a scan, this is not going to get accepted to stock photography. It's got too much grain and noisy. I don't have a lot of the data to work with the image. It's fine, but it's soft. It's not really in focus. I don't know what kind of scan it was. What were we actually scanning to get this shot? You can see that it's a little bit of an angle, so you would have to fix it a little bit. I can do Lightroom. It could give me straight lines and give me a little bit more of a straight building, which all those lines in architecture photography are very important. There's certain things I would have done a little bit different on location, like this post here is in the way. Maybe if you moved towards the middle, it would have had a better composition, more of a straight on shot. But yeah, it's fine. It's just not gonna get accepted or sold for stock. So let's move on to the next photo. Oh, I remember this one. It's an awesome capture, but there's a problem. When I zoom in, it's not really that sharp. I can see the guy's face. Let me see if I can get it up close for you guys to see. 200%. It's a small file. It's 6 megapixels. I think that was for the email. But you can see that the guy, it's a little bit blurred. He's not super crisp. But it is a great capture. Now, I would have said something like this will not get accepted because it's not sharp. Stock photography wants sharp images. I contacted the photographer, and he said that he had some issues with the raw files. He ended up only saving small JPEGs, which is why the photo is grainy and it doesn't look that crisp. But iStock ended up accepting the photo, and he sold it a few thousand times. Something that's unique, usually it's going to sell, and it doesn't have to be perfect. This was a great capture. Personally, I don't like the sky, the color in the sky. I would have done it a little bit more neutral. That's just something I would do. Some people love that, and apparently it sold many times. So keep doing what you're doing. This is a great capture. I can't even imagine losing all your raw images. That's gotta be terrible. The next photo, same photographer. I see the watermark, which, by the way, if you're selling stock photography, you cannot have a watermark. Watermarks, in my opinion, are a waste. I mean, they're so easy to just take the circle tool here and select it, and now it's gone. So something like that is very easy to do. Almost anybody could do it. I don't waste time. I just be careful of where you post your images. But this, now I know the photographer, there's a beautiful shot. Stock photography is perfect. Somebody working remotely. I can see the light coming through the trees, the fog, the steam. It is a great shot. The logos are removed, the laptop's removed, the focus is on point. If you zoom in here, you can see the backpack is a little soft, and I don't know what that is, because nothing else is. And it's hard to find something with this photo. The photographer is very good. I love the light on the trees, the fog, it looks great. Maybe just moving it a little bit so you have the complete tent. I mean, that's something that would maybe help you a little bit, back up 2 steps. So you get the whole tent and the whole scene. But no, that's a beautiful job. Great photo. I'm sure that's gonna do amazing in stock. Next. All right, this is the next photo. This is a beautiful image, same photographer. There's a watermark, a beautiful color. Just a great photo. As far as stock, I see what they're doing here with the negative space on top and putting the model in the bottom. That looks great. I personally probably would have done a vertical to see more of the model herself and shoot more of her and not so much of the scene. But I could see that what the photographer here was going for was the whole scene, and he did a great job capturing it. Focus is perfect. There's no logos. I don't know what to say. This guy's good. I don't know what to say. This guy is very good. He knows what he's doing. I'm sure this one sold and they're amazing. The colors, the whole image just looks beautiful. So let's move on to the next one. All right, the next photo, that's pretty. The sky, the trees, it looks nice. When I zoom in, you see that it's kind of noisy, and I don't know if that just, I think it was over sharpened. Yeah, this photo was over sharpened in post or on camera. You can see a lot of grain and stuff here at 100%. And you can see what I'm talking about here in the clouds and some weird colors here in the sky. I'm sure that's smoke or fog or something. It might be smoky, which would add that grain to the sky. What were the settings? This is a Realme 7i. I don't know exactly what that is. 1150th of a second, 64 megapixel. This looks like it might have been a cell phone photo. Clouds have like purples and reds and other colors that shouldn't be there. So this is gonna get rejected for technical issues. It's a good photo, good composition. I like the beams. The colors and the processing need a little bit of help. The white balance is off. If I make it a little bit bluer, you get a little bit more neutral color. That immediately changed it. Let me go compare here. I think it's a Y. So before and after, just by dropping the temperature, you can see how that looks a little bit better. And then if I do a filter, a radial filter here where the sun is, now I can add a little bit of warmth to the spot where the sun is, and I'm gonna drop the clarity and up the exposure just a little bit. So I don't know, I think I like this one a little bit better because it doesn't look as green, but there's still some technical issues with the image. It's not gonna get accepted or sold, I don't think. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. The next photo, and if I remember right, I do have the raw image. This is the raw photo, and then this is the edit. It is from my Nikon. You can see that's a 24 megapixel photo. It's a little crooked, which is why the edit, he straightened it out, he cropped it, left the rocks that's leading in. When I zoom into the photo, it's soft. It's really not focused in anything, and if I go to the raw image, it's the same thing. So I don't know if the wind blew the camera and shook it. If the stabilizer was left on, that usually causes the camera to move on a tripod. These rocks are not in focus, that's not in focus. So just be careful with your camera settings, or the wind or things like that. That's a good image. It's just not gonna get accepted because it doesn't have crispness or detail. I know earlier I said that and that guy sold that picture a few thousand times, but this is a different type of photo. This is easier to capture, and I'm sure a sharp photo would do much better than something like this. To improve the composition, I'd say get closer to the rocks, get closer to these rocks here. That's gonna give you a little bit more foreground and not just a cropped tight space here. So by getting closer, looking down, you eliminate so much of the blue sky, and now you'd be looking down towards the water, get more of a reflection and the water line when it meets the rock. So I think that would improve the photo, just changing the composition on location. All right, so this is the next photo. It's interesting. f4.4, 28.9 millimeter, 3/50th of a second. It's a Samsung. So this is from a phone. If I look at 100%, it's got a good focus. This sky is just washed out and there's a little bit of distortion here, which is fine. Let me go to J and see if there's no information missing. It's just a white sky. Composition is awesome. I like the lines leading in towards the middle. All the lines come together and bring your eye right here. These two lines go down at the same rate as those go there. So great composition. The sky is just a little bit washed out. There's not much you can do with something like this, especially with the phone. Maybe getting closer so that your whole image is the bridge and not the white sky. I'm just gonna fake it here with a crop. It would be kind of like, I don't know, something like this. And I think that would give you a stronger and better image, is just getting closer to the bridge and making that your whole scene instead of the washed out white sky. Good job. It's just the sky didn't have that detail, and phones had the limitations with HDR and stuff like that, but good job. And now let's go on to the next photo. Coffee or hot chocolate or something like that. This looks good. Let me look here at my highlights. There's just a little bit of information missing. I'm looking at the highlights because whatever this powder here is doesn't have a lot of detail. I can recover it. I just did some so you can see some of the detail there, but the focus is not sharp. It's not perfect. It's f5, 18 to 55 millimeter, 1/25th of a second, 40 millimeters. So this is a kit lens. They're not the sharpest. The image is fine. You can see just by adding contrast. Look at how the image pops. That's the image you sent me. So if I add a little bit of contrast and reduce the highlights, 2 clicks, and now let's look at before and after. Immediately it pops a little bit more. Like I said, the focus is not there. I'm not sure. You focus here in the middle, which is good, but maybe an f8, f11, it would have given you a stronger image. All right, so this was ISO 400. So it's a small camera, small sensor, high ISO. That's probably why there's some grain here. The cropping, I would have added more of the front just to give it a stronger pull. Otherwise it looks like that's your focal point, but it's not all there. That being the focal point, I think that right there is where your cropping could be. Anyway, this is just some of the things I do and how I've sold drink photos using those techniques, that composition, the lines here. So to me that works. Keep doing, you're doing great. Do more drinks. These tend to sell quite a bit. Next, all right, the next photo. Oh, that's awesome. Radioactive 3 comments activity. This looks like a great photo. Whatever was here looks like it was removed. Oh, same photographer. Great props. This is very good for stock. The color, the lighting, the props. I don't know where you're getting these things, but that's awesome. To be able to get a radioactive thing like this, that's perfect. Canon 5D Mark III, 24 to 70, f4, f8, 160th of a second. Perfect settings. I love the lighting on the dry ice or whatever you used. That is, yeah, that's a great photo, great stock image. Again, this guy is not making it easy for me because I don't have much to critique. If I go to information, yeah, that's how it should be. The black background should be dark. You can even just darken it a little bit, but there's not really a ton that I could do to improve the photo because it looks great. I approve. You're doing awesome. Next. All right, so the next photo, there's a whole bunch of cars. I don't know where this has a little bit of motion blur, so it's not gonna get accepted. If you look here, you can see a little slight motion blur. It's a 6-second photo at f22. Yeah, I don't think it's motion blur. I think it's diffraction from the lens. Get a filter, ND filter. I see what you were going for here. The water looks great. It looks beautiful, but nothing is sharp, and that's because it's f22. Each lens has a sweet spot, usually somewhere in the middle. As far as a composition, it looks great. But like I said, this is not gonna get accepted because it's just not sharp. And that, I believe 100% is because of the aperture of f22 with this particular camera and lens. So let's move on to the next one. All right, so this photo, it looks like a kid playing with Play-Doh. It's motion blurred, it's not sharp. This is not gonna get accepted. If I look, it's a 1/4 second at f2.8, 40 millimeters. Canon Rebel T5, ISO 200, but it's blurry. It's not gonna get accepted and it's not gonna sell. If it wasn't blurry, I could see the hands, the concept, they would do good. But also bring down the temperature. You see that? You see the difference? Just by dropping the temperature, this one looks better, and that would have more sales potential. Editors and people don't want to spend time tweaking. They want to buy and use. You know, if you can have a finished product, why why work on it? So just keep that in mind. Be careful with your settings. This is a little bit, it's blurred. It's not going to sell, but pay attention to your post-processing and just make things pop and usable right from the store instead of having to have somebody come in and tweak it. But anyway, next photo. All right, that looks like, again, this is the same pier. The next photo is the same pier, 3 1/5 of a second, and it's blurry. That is definitely motion blur. This is not gonna get accepted. When it's windy, when you got conditions like this, you have to do multiple shots. Put some weight on your tripod. F12 125. That's way too much for that lens. That is not going to handle it. But this is definitely motion blur and it's not going to get accepted. So let's move on to the next photo. All right, so this is artwork, so it would have to be editorial. When you do buildings, it's very important to keep everything straight. The buildings look like they're falling backwards. Here on Lightroom, it's easy to just do upright and it levels it. See how that changed? Go from off to on. The problem is now we have to crop it. So we're gonna lose from the bottom or from the top. So be careful how you angle your photo when you take the picture so that you don't have to lose or crop your image out of the area. This looks fine. It's sharp. It focused up here on the mural, which again, it would have to be editorial. If I look at the camera settings here, I see that it was ISO 400 at f4, yet the shutter speed was 2500. So if we could drop the ISO, you could drop your shutter speed and everything would be a little bit sharper and crisper. When I clicked the wrong one. If I zoom in here to the bottom and in the shadows, there's a little bit of noise and this photo is not gonna get accepted because of the noise. You can see it here, you can see it in the shadow, and that's because it's ISO 400. Now, it didn't have to be. If you drop the ISO to 100, you still get almost 800 of a second. So that would be perfect at the same aperture. I would have dropped the aperture even more, maybe an f8, and then more of it would be in focus and you would have less distortion here in the corners. And there's green and purple fringing on the lights and shadows. But just be careful with the composition. It's a great travel photo. If it's a famous place, a mural, I've sold images like this, other people's art, but they have to be editorial. A vertical shot would have been better because you get more of the street, more of the people. But anyway, it's a great shot, great idea. Keep trying. Just pay attention to your settings so that the grain and lens distortions are not as dominant in your photo. All right, so this next photo is a tree. It's a night image. I could see some star trails. It was probably quite a few seconds. It's a Sony ILCE 6000. It does 30 seconds. It doesn't tell me anything really. It's pretty good. I think it was recovered and it's been processed. It has a little bit of noise. It says the ISO was 125, but there's more noise than that. It's a good image. I like this strong focus on the tree. It looks fine. All right, guys, I'm kind of stuck with this one because I kind of like the purple. When I make it blue, it's not exact. I mean, that's more natural, but then the tree doesn't have the color. If I bring up the shadows, I lose the detail and I get a lot of noise. So I don't know what's going on. That's the original photo. Yeah, I can't see here in the shadows, there's a lot of noise, so that's not gonna get accepted for stock. Even though the ISO is only 1/25th, it doesn't, it's very noisy for 1/25th of ISO for 125. It's a good photo. I think I remember this photographer. They're trying out, learning more about nighttime, practicing. You got the stars. There's a spot here in your lens, so be careful with that. It could be lens or a filter. When I change the color in the sky, I see that spot and this spot here. I didn't notice those before. But yeah, no, good job. I just don't think this is gonna do anything for stock because it's just not sharp. All right, the next photos is nighttime. Same camera, same photographer. The lines are good, dude. Your compositions are strong. They're spot on. But you need commercial value for your images. I'm not seeing that here. You got the no parking signs, no parking. Maybe I can't even look at 30 seconds, 1/25th ISO. I don't see what your aperture was. If you use a smaller aperture, you're gonna get more of a starburst on these trees, on the lights. This is not gonna get accepted. It's way too dark, and it just not. It doesn't have that commercial value. You are getting good lines and good strong compositions. Just work around your limitations with dynamic range. I don't know if you enhance the orange and the yellows to make it pop here. Maybe. But again, it just doesn't have that strong commercial value. Next. All right, the next photo looks like a building, a hotel or something, and it's a great idea. Some windows are open, some of the curtains, it looks good, but you can see how the building is tilted. You want straight lines. When you're doing something like this, it's a very powerful image. You want straight lines. Here with Lightroom, we can straighten it up. You can see right away what it did. And now let's add some contrast just to make everything pop. To me, even right there, that's way better. It's a clean image, but because I straighten it in Lightroom, I'm losing a little bit. And you can see here the lines are not perfect. Yeah, Lightroom is having a hard time with this one, but that, to me, that looks beautiful. That's a great shot, great job. Just pay attention to the lines when you're shooting and try to get it as best as you can on camera, and then do your tweaks in Lightroom later. But you can see the difference from just the cropping, from falling down to straight, and then a little bit of contrast just makes everything pop. Something like this, I think it would do fairly well in stock as a background, abstracts, architecture, things like that. These things tend to sell. So yeah, good job. Just again, pay attention to your lines and try to get it on camera as best as possible. All right, next photo. Oh, I remember this guy. This is a series of photos, so they're all very good. He was doing a photo shoot with his friend. They borrowed his car. Had a conversation with the photographer because not all of them got accepted. And if we look here, this one is sharp. It focused on his collar here, not on his eye. Some vehicles, and I know he said that this one did not get accepted because recognizable property, even though he took the logos out. Some vehicles like the Jeep, I cannot sell a picture of the Jeep. It's not going to get accepted because it's a unique look. Same thing with the Porsche, I believe. Some of these are way too specific to how they look. The photos are very well done. The processing, they look a little soft. I know that's the lighting. To get richer tones, add contrast. This is up to the photographer to edit how they prefer. I would add a little bit more contrast to get more truer blacks. Also pay attention to any other logos anywhere. So I'm just gonna lump all these together. Here there's a little bit of blue around his face. It might have been captured a little bit too bright. This one has motion blur. This one is not sharp. There's logos on the belt, but it also has motion blur, so that's not gonna get accepted. This one here, again, the belt has logos. The belt is stamped. And this one is sharp. It's in good focus. Great concept, going out with a buddy, taking pictures. Model photos sell quite a bit. These are great images, but again, you know, some products, some props that we use tend to be more trademarked than others. And in this case, the car, you know it's a Porsche. Any car person will know it's a Porsche. These were all done with the 18 to 55, I believe. This is not the sharpest lens on the edges, so keep that in mind when you're shooting. Remember what lens you're using and where it dominates. So if you look at, example, this photo, well, that one's, you can see a little bit of distortion in his face. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then here it's sharper. The suit is sharp, the lines are sharp. His face tends to be a little bit stretched and a little bit of distortion. That's because of the lens. An f8 would have done better, and there's not really much to blur in the background. So I would recommend playing around with your lens. You're learning a little bit more about where it's the sharpest. My preference is more high contrast images. I know not everyone likes them, but I think this would improve the image quite a bit just by adding a little bit of contrast. You know, the suit pops, everything just looks a little bit more crisp. You see that? It looks a little bit softer here. Just by adding contrast, it pops a little bit more. So I think that would help these images quite a bit. All right, next. All right, this is like a spooky castle kind of thing. 30 seconds, f8, which, there goes my mouse. Sony IC 6000, 16 to 50 millimeters. So this is probably the same lens from before. The detail in the building is fine. Just be careful with the white balance, and then these spots here, that's the light on the lens, so it gives you that purple light. See, every time with this camera, every time I try to recover the shadows, there's a lot of noise, and that's ISO 160, so there's something there. Your camera's having a very hard time when it comes to dynamic range. This is what's limiting you. The more I see your pictures, the more I notice this. This is very bright in here, and there's a lot of detail on that. You can see how your camera recovered that nicely. But when I go into the shadows, they have way too much noise. So it exposed and recovered this detail, but not your shadow. So that's where your camera's failing. pay attention when you do an exposure. Maybe do an exposure blend. You know, take a few pictures, one a little bit brighter than the other, and then blend them. It's a beautiful shot. The composition, it's, again, you got strong lines. I just don't like that the building is falling, and these lights here in the purple is a little bit distracting. This is not going to get accepted for stock because of the technical issues with your gear and the limitations you have with this particular camera. Good job. Keep shooting, keep learning, pay attention to these things, and hopefully that'll give you a little bit more detail here in the shadows. All right, the next photo, again, this is a nighttime, same camera, 16 to 50 EPZ lens, 3.5 to 5.6, ISO 160 at f10. Again, strong lines, but your shadows, man, your shadows are just not, there's no detail at all in the shadows. This camera is hurting you. You got good lines, you got good straight compositions, you got, you know, all your leading lines lead here. Just something is hurting. But I see good technique in your photos, good composition, good lines. Just keep practicing and try to work around your limitations with this, which is your shadows. Again, this is 30 seconds. All of your photos are 30 seconds, and I don't understand why. So you can send me an email and I'll try to understand why is everything 30 seconds. There's no one walking, so I'm guessing that's why. You leave the shutter open for 30 seconds, people walk by and they disappear. But I just don't know why your shadows are that noisy. Anyway, next. All right, so the next one is a street sign Silkeborg. I don't know what that means. I sell street signs quite a bit, especially if it's a famous place or something happened. If I had a street sign right now of Ohio, I might be selling it quite a bit. But this, let me get some close up here, 100%. It's good focus, it's sharp. Again, this is a 28 to 70. It was a 3.5. Can you see? Let me zoom in here. Can you see how that is stretched out and you see double poles here? This is something to do with the lens, and it's even here. You see the ghosting. This one is not so bad because that's where the focus is. But anything that's out of focus has that double ghosting. And that is because it shot a 3.5 on a wide angle lens, 28 to 70. This is not going to get accepted because it's not a clear image. Even the grass here has a double glow to it. And the trees here, the sign is perfectly in focus. It's a f3.5, which is part of it. Most wide angle lenses work best at f11, f9, somewhere in there. Maybe try it with different settings to see what works best for you. I sell a lot of signs, places, famous places, street names, Fifth Avenue in New York. These are things that are always going to sell. But again, just be careful and try to get the best settings that will work for that camera and that lens. All right, so this is another nighttime photo. I think I got a lot of your photos. This is not sharp, it's not in focus, so that's not going to get accepted and it's not going to sell. I would just drop is this a photo of a photo or is that actually a statue? I think this is a photo of a photo. I can't tell what that is. I don't know. It's not sharp. It's not in focus. So this is not going to get accepted and it's not going to sell. That might have been a picture out of a car or something. This is a sign, but it's just not a sharp image. So that's not good. And if it's a photo of a photo, then you can't sell it. Next. All right. And then the last one. This is the car's butt print here in the snow. This is a friend sent me this and I thought it would be perfect as an example of weather pictures, images of weather, bad weather situations, record snowfall. These are things that are gonna sell. This is an iPhone 13 photo, 13 Pro. The picture is sharp. Sell it as an editorial. There's other vehicles, there's a gas station, so it would have to be editorial. And this is an event, something that is happening right now. Compositionally, I probably would have backed up a little bit and turned the camera a little bit more to show more of the scene, or maybe even a wide instead of a up and down. Going out in bad weather gives us good options, good images, things that not many other people see, and these tend to sell a lot. So again, guys, if you have images you want to send me, here's my email in the description. Feel free to send them. I will get to every photo that you guys have sent to me. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about stock photography and bad weather, go ahead and watch this video I made right here. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.